came in, don't use the lift, go down the stairs, and as you go through the outside, just opposite the church, if you could queue up there and we could check that everyone's out there. If you need to go to the toilets, again, through these main doors, just turn right and the male and female toilets are there. My dad's asked me to cover kind of IT, so it's kind of jargon free. So please stop me if I'm covering it in a technical way. But we'll be covering what is IT support and the challenges businesses face. Dad's also asked me to explain the humble beginnings of Utilize and a little bit of history on myself and how I've worked with my father in the past. A little bit about the growth, the awards, and the future plans of Utilize. Then after my presentation, Sam will be talking about the revolution of cloud computing. Now I'm sure now all of us are using some element of cloud computing, but what does the future hold? Where is it today and where is it going, and the implications that we're all going to be having to deal with. Then after the cloud computing part, I'll be splitting you into two groups. Half you'll be coming with me and I'll be showing you around the offices, introducing you to some staff, and also showing you how we use technology and look after our client sites. Then I'll be bringing that half back here and I'll be taking the other half and doing exactly the same. Then at the end, please join us in the Conservative Club for light refreshments, a bit of lunch and something to drink.
Sounds good.
Okay. So to kind of start things off then, what is IT support? IT support is providing complete support services for those that use technology. Now, our clients are two types of clients. They're either clients that have no IT experience, so therefore they outsource the whole lot in its entirety to us. And then we have customers that already have an IT director or an IT manager that look after their IT, and they outsource elements of IT support to us. So I thought perhaps the best way to kind of start is to kind of explain how businesses use IT and what their reliance is on those areas. So, IT support. What's needed first of all for any business environment? You need servers. Okay. Servers are very much where all the data and the applications reside, and this is where people access information. So these servers vary in size, vary in price, vary in complexity, vary in making it as resilient as possible to failure. So not only have we got the servers, you've got the operating systems that sit on top of the servers. So you've got Microsoft, which we've all heard of. We've got Linux, you've got Novell, the list goes on. But clients are using them, but I'd go as far to say around 98% of all businesses use Microsoft as their key platform. Although saying that, the big threat to the Microsoft empire is what Apple are doing. But the thing is what Apple are doing, they're very much hitting the mass market of children, where they're kind of coming through the schools, having everything about Apple, but not knowing a great deal about Microsoft. So we're going to see a huge change. But not only that, the products that Apple are bringing into the marketplace are great for entertainment. I mean, although I'm 100% behind Microsoft, if you go to my house, I'm using Apples. My kids have got Apples. I've got iPads, iPods, Apple Macs. Then you see my computer in the side there. But technology. So okay, so what we've got here, you've got operating systems that basically sit on top of here that need supporting. What else have we got? We've got email.
Warren, can we interject with questions?
Yes, of course you can. Yeah.
What is a server?
A server is really the main box of where all the data and applications sit on. Your computer, in other words. Yeah. So the kind of computer that you have at home, but just imagine that magnified, acting as a central repository for information. And of course, on the servers, it provides email. From the servers, you've also got access to the internet. Because you've got email, you've got internet, you need an element of BT, because you need lines. coming in. Because all the information is stored on servers, what happens if the server goes down? You need some kind of recovery in place. So then you need to address some form of backup. Talking about applications, yeah, that are kind of stored on the server, you know, it's like accounts package. Every business needs an accounts package. Then you've got some kind of CRM, which is a customer relationship management package, which holds all the information about your clients, what products they're using, who the decision makers are, and it kind of acts as your marketing, central marketing machine to win business, but to also manage the existing customers that you have.
That would apply mostly to business, but to some private business.
Correct, yes. Yeah. And then you have a typical business will then have some kind of operations based package, and then also using all Microsoft applications. So most of us use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Access. Okay. Then attached to a company network, you've got printers. And even the printers have moved on to what's known as multifunctional printers. So they're acting as one big beast that's doing your printing, your photocopying, your faxing, your scanning. Now the only problem with that is all being in one machine. If it goes wrong, you've lost everything. Yeah, but what's the benefits? One consumable cost, one maintenance cost. What else have we got here in businesses use in the main? Telecoms. Yeah, the convergence of data and telecoms has come together. No longer do you just have a telephone system that sits in a corner and that's all it does. It now links into your data network, giving screen popping of client information before the user has actually picked up the phone. Call recording of every single call that's coming into the office and going out to the office.
On that server, you're getting rather complicated here, but on an installation of that size, is your backup separate to the server?
Yes, it is. Yep. Okay. Then you've got other forms of communication. Yeah, a lot of us now, you've probably heard of it on the news with the recent riots, that a lot of the thugs have communicated kind of under the line, you know, where the police can't monitor Facebook, or you know, they monitor Facebook, they monitor Twitter, but things like BlackBerry devices. It's a business tool. So using BBM, they've managed to kind of communicate without it being spotted. But BlackBerries have been a great business tool for linking people, keeping them in touch with the office with all their emails and calendars and looking at other people's calendars. Sorry. But of course, you've got all this, you then need the cabling to bring all this together. But then once you've got this, you've got remote workers, people that work from home. So they need to connect to the office. Or there might be another office that needs to use all the applications within the main office. So the reliance of businesses and the challenges that they face is to kind of deal with all these aspects and to look at what happens if something goes wrong. How can we prevent these servers going down and then affecting all the home users, all the users in the office, or the other offices? So how do you deal with disaster recovery? Yeah? Or business continuity. You've had a disaster, how do you then kind of bring it all back online very quickly? So dealing with those aspects, can one single person provide all the answers and guidance for even a business that's 10 users or a business that's 1,000 users? Because they all have the same requirement of IT, it's just on a different scale and a different form of complexity. So IT support really comes into providing the support arrangement on making sure all this works. So what you're going to see today is the infrastructure behind here that deals with all these aspects. That is very much IT support, and I'll be touching on a lot of this when I'll be showing you around the offices.
Does that mean that you here keep a copy of all that, or do you just have the ability to repair packets?
Right, okay. Yeah, I'll answer that question. Very good question. The providing support services, okay, an element of disaster recovery is the standard way a company would back up would be like a normal tape drive, and it'd be a normal tape that goes in, backs up all the data, and you take it off premises. Yeah? One, it's very slow. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't actually back up the whole system, it only backs up part of the system. So if you have a problem, it's only going to restore part of the data. So there's different solutions whereby through the internet we can back up the entirety of the system to somewhere else in Europe or in the States. The other side is to then replicate exactly what you've got here into a data center using an element of cloud computing. Or what Sam will be touching on later is, well, why not put all of this in the cloud? And the cloud, Sam will explain later, but this is the World Wide Web, it's the internet. Yeah? And there's lots of challenges that even IT companies and manufacturers are going to have to face about dealing with the security aspects of data sitting in the cloud. But also, it's a single point of failure.
Is it safe? Is it safe yet?
No. You'll get lots of people who claim that it is, yeah, but it's not safe. Okay, so IT support, when I show you around the offices, I'll be actually kind of touching on elements of these, because that's what we do and what we use. So my dad's asked me to kind of explain a bit about the humble beginnings of Utilize and our kind of history. So going back around 20 years ago, when I left, just over 20 years ago, when I left school, finishing my A-levels, my father had a photocopier company. It was quite a large one, and I was very fortunate enough that my dad allowed me to work in different divisions of the company. So I started off in the administration side, and that was literally making coffees for everyone, and then kind of working my way through to
You've been up to tea now.
that's it, and kind of running the administration side of the business. But administration wasn't for me, so I very quickly moved into the accounts side of the business. So doing the invoicing, the purchase ordering, trial balance to management accounts. But again, I very quickly realised, numbers, accountancy really wasn't me. So then I kind of moved into the service side of the business, and the service aspect was run by my uncle Reg. Some of you may know him. So again, I was kind of dealing with all the engineers there and introducing computerised systems in managing stock control, delivering customer services, to the point of almost running the service side of the business. But I didn't really find that challenging enough, so I very quickly then moved into the sales and marketing and running the sales team. But again, I wanted to kind of have more of an overall feel of the business. So the next step there was I was promoted to assistant managing director, and I think you could near enough say then my dad was almost retired at that point. But then my dad decided it was the right time to kind of sell the business. So we sold Biscom Information Systems to a larger British company, and I was then kept on for 6 months to help with the integration process, or should I say, I was supposed to be kept on for longer, because the guy actually promised to invest just over £1 million into the business to invest in the computer side, so I can really kind of go to market and satisfy customers' needs with providing IT support. Well, the new owner never materialised with the £1 million. Yeah, and then my wife fell pregnant, and the birth of my son, I thought, do you know what, right? I'm now going to do this myself. So left left Biscom, and opened up Utilize. But I had contractual arrangements where I couldn't deal with any existing customers. But fortunately, because my dad put me through all the aspects and disciplines of business, I was very quickly able to kind of market myself, win new customers, take on staff, deliver services, and where we are today, we've got just over 80 staff, and that's been kind of built up over the last kind of 12, 13 years. So, but how did it start? Like all kind of small businesses, I didn't have a great deal of money at that time. I had to kind of keep costs down. So I opened up Utilize from my old bedroom at Mum and Dad's house. And it was a room a bit smaller than this, with 3 desks in, and off we went. We were winning business, we knew how to exceed customer expectations. I knew the fact that all businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, had these issues. There was the need, and was providing good services. The business was very quickly growing, and to the point where we was having huge lorries, juggernauts. If you've ever been to Mum and Dad's place, it's it's very difficult to kind of get up in one of those big trucks. So of course, the neighbours were kind of putting a bit of a complaint to my mum, but Mum and Dad could kind of deal with that. But I think the icing was on the cake was when I turned my mum's dining room into a makeshift workshop. And then I think, I said, this is either our relationship, or the business. So it was time to move out. We then moved to Harold Wood. Harold Wood was around 5 times the size of what my bedroom was, and we kind of took on more space as when we kind of grew. Then around 6 years ago, we moved to these offices, where we're on the entire floor here, and we've got a third of the floor underneath as well. Now, we're actually moving in 3 weeks' time to Harold Hill, which is around 3 times the size of the amount of space that we've got here, and far bigger meeting room and air conditioning as well. So that's where we are. So what have we also done during that period of time? We've also gone down the acquisition trail. We've acquired 4 other companies, and that's very much kind of fitted in providing a one-stop shop support solution for our customers. Our customers just want to get on with running their business. They don't want to know about IT. If they have an issue, they just want to be able to have one number of phone and we deal with them. So our first acquisition was a company based in Basildon. They were called Advanced Systems Technology Group. So they were doing almost identical to what we were doing. So it was a perfect fit for them to kind of join in on what we were doing. The second acquisition came along when talking about kind of telecoms, was there's a big kind of talk, a big hype in the marketplace about telecoms and data, the convergence of data and voice coming together. You need to be in the marketplace. You need to be kind of dealing with telecoms. You need to be dealing with data, right? And I was thinking, whoa, hang on a second, this is something quite big that's coming up. So of course, I didn't know a great deal about telecoms. As far as I was concerned, it was really complicated and it kind of sat on the wall and I didn't really want to kind of know about it. So we thought, well, hang on a second, I'm not going to take someone on and kind of learn the hard way. So again, we acquired a small telecoms company and brought their engineers in. And the way I looked at it was that we were going to train the telecom engineers to understand the data side and the data engineers to understand the telecoms. Right, well, training the data side worked extremely well to understand telecoms. To train the telecom engineers, it was impossible. You could not do it, right? And when we was actually kind of looking at it, because I've got a bit of kind of hands-on, so I looked at it, telecoms are straightforward. It's almost as living behind this myth, of the making it sound complicated, but it was easy. So consequently, we couldn't train our telecom guys to understand data, so they just deal with the telecom side. But our data guys have really grabbed hold of the telecom side, and now we're integrating telecoms into the data side. So when I show you around, you will actually see screen popping of client information that automatically launches their service contract to place calls before we've actually even answered the phone. We've got call recording, so it deals with any kind of dispute resolution or training purposes. We monitor all the calls coming in and going out. It's very powerful, but what does it bring back to businesses? Everything that we kind of look at must bring 3 things back to businesses. It must bring either productivity, efficiency, or increased bottom line profit. If it doesn't do one of those 3 things, you can near enough classify it as a gadget. Yeah, and trust me, technology can be like that. Yeah, we get manufacturers knocking on our doors all the time to say, oh, we've got a great piece of software here. It can do X, Y, Z. Okay, but does it actually bring one of those three things back to a business? No, but it's a great thing to have. Yeah, okay, thanks, but no thanks. Yeah, but it keeps us focused, yeah, on what businesses are about. And providing IT support for all of these things is key. The second to last acquisition that we made, yeah, you've probably all heard of Sage Accounts, Sage Payroll. Okay, Sage literally owns 70% of all accountancy applications in the market. 70%, and even higher when it comes down to small, medium-sized businesses, which we specialise in. So every time we were going to a client and kind of replacing parts of their infrastructure, we then had to deal with their third-party company that was doing their accounts. And this was happening day in, day out. So we thought, well, let's make an acquisition. Let's acquire a Sage partner. So going back 3.5 years ago, we acquired a company called Aspirin Business Computers, which were based in Chadwell Heath.
You know them, Lou, don't you?
Hey?
You know them, don't you?
Yeah. We used to look where they're for us.
Oh, okay. Right. And they were an award-winning business partner, so we had some very good quality staff that came across to here. And consequently now, whenever we go to a customer site, we do the Sage element, we do it ourselves. Yeah? So our competitors are now losing support contracts because we're taking on the support of the Sage side. But it just wasn't providing the Sage support services, it was also for us as an IT support company to then offer those Sage customers our IT support services. So it was a really, really good fit. The last acquisition that we made was a company called VMS Enterprises Limited, which are down in Bromley. Now, that now gives us a separate location as well, and that's part of our own kind of disaster recovery and business continuity. So if anything ever happened here, I can have my staff and move down to Bromley to work, or vice versa. But Sam will be talking about the cloud. Yeah, so we also have our complete infrastructure replicated in the cloud. So if anything happened to these officers and Bromley office, all staff can literally just go home, yeah, access their internet and access all the business applications that are being used here.
So the software company you've got, the software company you're talking about, do they do small packages for?
Yes, yeah, we deal with Sage 50 as well.
No idea, because I'm looking for a new package for the Rotary account.
Oh, okay, right.
Very small package.
Probably not that small. Very small.
Yeah, it is. Well, Sage do, yes. I mean, Sage sell their products through a reseller channel, yeah, and we're in that reseller channel. So, I mean, when it comes to pricing, we'll be able to get it any cheaper than
I don't even know what the prices are. I have no idea. I'm using a money package, and it's an old one, and it has inherent defects, which Microsoft acknowledge and give me a problem.
Right.
I've got to change
Still
it.
works on cash, it is
Okay. I mean, afterwards, what I'll do is if I go over details, I'll give you some. I'll get one of the guys to actually give us a kind of presentation on Sage. Yeah. But kind of what you're after, we've kind of done for other.
Can you give a specific, say, a company approach, and you tell us what the problem is and how you deal with it? It may be a small problem, say from, well, I was going to say British Telecom, but not that's a bad one. But a small company comes to you, you've got a problem. So what do you do? How do you start off? How do you do that?
Right. Okay. A business may be already using an IT support company. Yeah. That business may have already outgrown the IT support company, or they're providing bad support. And what I mean by bad support is they're not giving advice on all these areas. Yeah, they literally kind of wait for a problem to happen. So they're very much kind of reactive, not proactive. So later on, Sam's giving a presentation on Systems Manager. And we've invested around £120,000 into this bit of software that has very much kind of revolutionised the way small to medium-sized businesses are looked after from IT support companies. We're 2 years ahead of our competitors in doing this. Yeah? But what it does do, it monitors the very minutest aspects of a client's infrastructure. All these things here, yeah, they all throw off information. Yeah, and when something kind of goes wrong, it also throws off a bit of information that it goes wrong. So what we've done is tapped into these reports and designed our own system to identify it when something goes wrong, so then we can deal with it before it manifests into something quite serious. Viruses as well, yes. But not only does it pick up on the viruses, but if you imagine, you know, you've got loads of workstations, people and people working from home, notebooks, so connected to the network, yeah, they're going to pick up some viruses at some point. So there's no point on picking up and waiting for the virus to happen. You might as well pick up to make sure that are they actually using the latest, up-to-date version of the virus software.
The antivirus.
Of the antivirus software. So you pick up on that, yeah, well then you're going to prevent the virus coming in the first place. But then there's other stages as well. You can have, well, that's kind of very much the first tier of defense, the antivirus software. You have a second tier of defense where something sits in the cloud and monitors all the email, cleans it for you before it's actually delivered to your office or delivered to your inbox.
Are we, as ordinary users, using things like AVG? Is that sort of wishing pie in the sky, or is it?
No, that's it. It works fine. Works very fine. Just need to kind of make sure it's up to date. It's up to date. Yeah. You know, there's some companies out there that kind of quote that it's free antivirus. Yeah. A lot of people, you always got to think so. No one gives away something free. There's always a catch somewhere, and you tend to kind of find, when you look behind the makeup of the company that's providing it's free, it has some kind of Russian background, and that's where most of the viruses kind of tend to come from anyway.
People like us, what is a good antivirus program to buy?
McAfee is a good one. AVG, Sophos antivirus. Norton. You're dealing with big organisations that have got the backing and the credibility behind it. But there's lots of threats that businesses face, not just from viruses. You get kind of malware. So a piece of malware, if someone sends you an email, it's like it's like these banking ones you get. You need to kind of change your password or whatever, and before you know it, you're actually giving them all your passwords and that for them to manipulate your bank accounts. Right? But or even little groups into your network where they send you another bit of it might be from Sainsbury's or Tesco's. They try and pick on the masses and say, oh, by the way, you got £20 worth of free shopping. Can you click on here? So you click on here, and what it actually does, it opens up a gateway, right? A clean gateway from your server or workstation to the person that can now get complete access to everything on your PC at home, or for a business, everything that's on the server.
Can you block that?
Yes, you can block that. Yeah. And that's where, just going back to the questions you're asking, is why do companies change IT support companies, or what do they look for? It's because they're not being kept up to date. They're not being protected. They fall behind. I mean, technology changes so quickly. Our support guys here and our consultants, out of 12 months, they're on training courses 2 months out of the 12, just to keep up with current changes and the threats that businesses have to deal with. But this is where IT support comes into it, where a company like Utilize, which they engage, they don't have to deal with this. We can bring our experience and our expertise to take the headache out of IT, because IT runs businesses now. Could a business survive for a week if its whole system went down?
How do you make how can you charge, and on what basis do you charge a company who wants to come in?
Okay, yep. What happens, we arrange a no obligation site visit, so a consultant would sit down with the person who knows the business structure. We kind of find out how many servers they got, how many workstations, what kind of services they're currently running, and then we kind of apply best computing practices and see where the holes are. Then we say, right, to look after your infrastructure as it is, yeah, it will be X amount per month. Let's say, for example, £400 a month. Yeah, and they would then tap into all of the resources here to deliver these kind of services.
And overall cleansing, in other words.
Yeah.
Your work is done remote, isn't it?
That's right.
Everything you do in the way of IT support from companies is done from your office, yeah?
Around it's about 97% of all support calls are done remotely, and you're going to see the guys actually out there providing support. And we've also got on-site engineers. We've got 13 engineers that are constantly on the road, company cars, packed with spare parts and spare servers in case of a major
The
issue.
reason I asked, I worked for local authority when I was working, and you can imagine they had quite a big IT support set up there,
Yeah.
which was quite frankly bloody useless. Can you remember that far back? Well, yeah, just about, yeah. And it was totally useless because it was called the helpline we had, which was, I don't know, as staff, if we got problems, you rang the helpline, you know.
Yep.
Had a recorded message on it, you know, that sort of thing. So clearly, any improvement, that's got to be good. But I wondered how much detail you can have. The commonest thing in a big office situation is people forgetting their passwords.
Yep. Yep.
And, you know, you should shout help to the helpline. Is that sort of thing you do?
Yeah, we do all of that. Yeah, and when it even comes down to passwords, we actually monitor everyone's login attempts because so we actually know if someone's forgotten their password. But what we're actually looking for is something a bit more kind of fraudulent. Yeah, which is someone to try and hack someone's password to get more depth into their
the common problem on the floor
Yeah.
is that sort of thing. I mean, Black over and probably for 3 weeks, comes back to his computer. Plus, I forgot him. So, I mean, that's when you shout help. Now, that's the sort of support you would get remotely, of course.
Yes, that's right. I mean, we've got customers that have only got 5 staff. Yeah, and we look after the whole lot. You know, they don't need to know anything about the system. Of course, we have it documented and all that for them as well. Then we've got customers that, you know, a couple hundred users. In fact, we've got one client. They're around 20,000 staff, but they've only got 700 users. Yeah, but with that, we've got people on site, and they've got offices over in Kazakhstan, Amsterdam, Spain. So you know, we've got clients all around the world. But you know, I'm not after those big clients, you know, because you know, there's no single client that represents more than 0.1% of our turnover. So it makes us extremely stable as a company. But not only that, is that dealing with small and medium-sized businesses, it gives me a great deal of satisfaction. Of them bringing, you know, well, I know what their problems are, but we've got the solutions to make it work for them, so they can focus on, you know, running their business with what they're good at.
If I remember what I said, it went through the section everybody's secrets, which makes you also very vulnerable.
Yes.
Do you have to have any sort of signed agreement that you won't divulge that particular secret?
Yeah. As part of all our service agreements, there's confidentiality clauses in there. But you know, everybody's systems can be hacked. Nothing is 100%. Yeah. But IT companies, I'm sure, probably would be a hit for someone to get hold of all that information. Because you know, we look after around about 550 clients at the moment, so we hold their master passwords, their infrastructure designs. So if that fell into the wrong hands, it's very dangerous. So, but what we've, we recognise that and we point that out to clients, because how we combat that is that we've gone for ISO 27001, which is a security standard, which predominantly banks go for. IT companies tend not to go for it because you have got to jump through so many hoops and over so many hurdles, and it is a nightmare to achieve.
So
now,
is there a body that overrules?
There is,
What do they do? How do they do it?
they come in once a year, and they audit our systems. So we've held it for the last 3 years. So it's exactly that. It really is. And it really has tied up even the way that we look after data. But what that means is, you know, if a member of staff leaves this company, is that they can't provide support to any other business because they've got to go through here. So you know, it's just little things that you can implement. But you know, other IT support companies wouldn't even think about something like that until it's too late. An employee leaves, he's got a bit of a grudge, and it's caused a bit of havoc.
I understood, like, to be able to hack into something, you have to be online, by definition.
Yes.
you're not
Or
online-
wireless.
Hmm?
We've done wireless as well.
Okay, if you're not online, you cannot be hacked into.
Yep.
I've never understood why an organisation doesn't have an internal system,
Yep.
totally internal,
Yep.
and the only time it goes onto the line, you transmit to a separate server, which then goes online.
Right.
You put a break line in the middle. Stop it there.
Yeah, you can do that anyway. What's known as, I don't want to get kind of too technical, but it's known as kind of DMZ,
Yeah.
demilitarised the zone. Yeah, that's literally kind of doing that.
It's best firewall
but
measurement. You just
that's
don't
right.
online.
But what you can't help is, every business, they have cleaners.
What?
They have cleaners that come in. Yeah, cleaners come in and they hold, they can have USB devices. They can just put it into a computer and copy huge chunks of data. How do you prevent that? Well, we do have methods of preventing that, and I'll show you how we do that.
Switch it off before you go home.
Yeah, I know, but we can't police every member of staff to make sure they're switching off their computers. And computers are designed to be left on anyway. Yeah, so you won't get someone crawling underneath their desk and switching it off. So we've got to kind of deal with those aspects. But the data theft, that is huge. We're hearing about it all the time, where people at the MOD, they just leave their notebooks on the train. Huge chunks of, how do you protect yourself against that? There are ways of protecting it, and it's not expensive to do it. But again, it's part of IT support, that I believe that we need to be, educating kind of customers to make sure they've got something in place to look after their threats. Even things like the internet. We've got around 80 staff. How do I know that half of them aren't on eBay or downloading illicit material of some sort, or even watching Wimbledon when it's on? Cricket, yeah. So it's having the right kind of application that sits on here, that's monitoring all the users and it's reporting back. Because if people know that it's being reported on, they tend not to use it. Yeah. So again, it's addressing all these things because small, medium-sized businesses don't know about what these threats are. But at the end of the day, it must achieve one of three things, which is the efficiency, productivity, and that bottom line profit. That's what most people in businesses for. Unless you're a charity, but then you don't want to waste money because you have more money to spend on something else. Okay, so that very much good kind of leads me to pass you over to Sam to talk about the cloud.
In short, the cloud, if you keep hearing that word being bounced about, I think more I mentioned it, is basically the internet. So it's nothing really new. It's just services that have been created using the internet. So just about companies sort of getting a little more reach to your business, really. Computing, the cloud. So what we'll do is just go through the beginning really of the modern day company network as we see it at the moment. Then we'll go sort of from that point to sort of today, what the industry's how it's evolved and what we're experiencing at the moment. And then we'll go through the cloud itself, really, I suppose, the answers to all of our problems, or so what a lot of people tell you. So then we'll go through what the issues with cloud computing, so we'll sort of really go from point and counterpoint there. What we're doing about it and how we're using it to help our customers. And then again the future of the cloud and how we see that evolving and how we see that coming to light over the next few years. And then after, any questions? So in the beginning, I think we're all familiar with these points. The modern day network is about, funny enough, the personal computer and email now, they're about 40 years old nearly. 1973 was the first email. Personal computer was really a year or so after that. So we're all kind of familiar. The personal computer was really the natural progression of the typewriter made staff and end users more efficient, quicker. Email, a great way of sending a lot of information over a vast distance extremely quickly. Servers, again the kind of natural progression on from a mainframe. It's a central repository unit for personal computers to access central information. Again, kind of makes that whole process a lot more efficient. And then the internet, something that was designed as a mass virtual library for everyone just to access information. As I say, it's probably something everyone's kind of familiar with, everyone's used. It's a bit hard to find someone who hasn't used any of those things now. Okay, so today, well, where has that sort of brought us over the last 30 odd years? Well, now there are 750 million business email inboxes, or more than that, because that's stats from 2010. Those inboxes, or email generally, is 294 billion emails sent a day, of which 90% are spam and viruses. Quite a huge amount. Now we'll come on to that a little bit later on, how important that figure is. But still, that works out to about 30 billion legitimate emails sent per day. And I would imagine that most of those are sent by those 750 million business inboxes. So again, in March 2001, there were 458 million internet users. That's approximately 11 years after the internet was invented by Tim Berners-Lee in 1990. Now there are more than 2,110 million internet users. So we've seen the amount of the reach that this technology has gained is massive. Everyone's using it. We've also seen data become to grow massively over the last 30 odd years, and it's currently estimated that enterprise data will grow by 60% per year, and that's depending on what industry you're in. If we take the graphics industry, for example, that's more than double. That's about 120% or more per year that their data will grow. Now, to combat that, we've seen larger PCs being shipped with terabyte drives, notebooks with larger drives, and indeed servers. But the point is that data will always ever grow. And by utilising email and the internet to create and manage more data, it's just going to get more and more as people become more versed in how to use it. We've also seen connection speeds increase from 10 megabits to 1 gigabit per second. Now, 10 megabits was created with Ethernet back roughly when the PC was. 1 gigabit is 1,000 megabits. So it's quite a quick transition of speed. Now, the reason for the increase in speed is really the reason for things like the PC and email is to do with efficiency and speed from access. So when I want to go and access a file from a server, I want it instantly. I don't want to have to hang around and wait for it to open. So if I can do more things, I can get a lot more done quickly. So we've seen connection speeds increase massively. Now if we take, this is just really, I suppose, for the most small to medium-sized business speeds. We used to look at places like the Docklands in the city, they've got fibre to desktop, and that's the speed of light. So it'd be fair to say that businesses have become more reliant on the IT infrastructure for productivity and efficiency. And Warren mentioned about disaster recovery has now become a hot topic. I think years ago when most people used sort of pen and paper and the files, it wasn't really a big issue. It just kind of happened, and there wasn't this question of, what if my building burns down? It's kind of, well, the files go with it, I'll pack up and I go home, I guess. Whereas now, that doesn't happen. People say, well, what if my server blows up? What if the building does flood or burns up? I need access to my data still needs to be able to function. Well, we can do that. There are ways of replicating your network off-site to another location, so if the worst was to happen, you can quite quickly switch over to that new site and use it. And whether that be you working from home or you work at a sort of disaster recovery site you set up yourself. However, that can be a very expensive solution, and depending on the amount of downtime you're willing to suffer, and for most companies that's very minimal, you're looking at tens of thousands of pounds. You know, I've got a company with only about 50-60 users, and they spend approximately £60,000 on a solution where they'll be up and running for about an hour, and then they pay an ongoing cost of about £1,000 a month. Extremely expensive for most small to medium businesses. That's just not an option. But then when you say to them, well, you've got your backup tape, so that's kind of disaster recovery. It's going to take between a week to 2 weeks to get you back up and running. Yeah. No, backup tapes aren't new technology. In fact, they're probably one of the oldest technologies we're still using. The good thing about tape is it can hold quite a vast amount of data.
Are we talking tape as in tape discs?
As in, yeah, cassette tapes.
Oh, jeez, did they still use that?
The old magnetic tape, yeah, and we're still using that to back up data. which is outdated. We have seen the introduction of an RDX technology, which is essentially a small hard drive encased in a rugged case, and that will take up to, I think, about 700 gigs worth of data now, whereas the tape backup will still go into terabytes of data. So it's still really the leader in backup technology. However, we are starting to see that even that's becoming, it's not sufficient for a lot of businesses. Again, going to things like the graphic industry, where they're, if we say I went to see one the other month, and they were holding about 8 terabytes of data. So you're saying their data growth is going to increase by 120%. I mean, we're looking at probably another terabyte per year. A terabyte is 1,000 gig. So you've got a sort of basic level. You've got 1 byte, then 1 kilobyte, which is about 8 words, and then you've got a megabyte, which is 1,000 kilobytes. You've got a gigabyte, which is 1,000 megabytes, and then it goes on. So it's an awful lot of data. So like I say, now we're starting to see backup technology even struggling with the amount of data that the companies are creating, and that's not even the enterprise marketplace, that is in the small to medium sized business. So ultimately, all this IT evolution, as fantastic as it is, has brought along with it some of its inherent problems which need a solution. And that's where the cloud comes into it, cloud computing. Don't panic, put it all in the cloud. And that's what all these big companies like Microsoft, Amazon, they're all going to be telling you. Don't worry about it, we've got a solution, you just put it in the cloud, the internet basically. The internet's massive, there's so much room there for everyone. And you can just pick up all of your data, all of your applications, and put it in the cloud. Don't worry about disaster recovery, we don't have to spend tens of thousands of pounds on a disaster recovery plan, because it's all in the internet, and that's always on. So, exactly what I said, it's an always on, always available service. You can access it any time of day or night. It's the internet. The internet's always on. So for some companies, that's a real great plus, because generally you've just got your own server and your workstations, and that's it. You don't have remote access. And your company's only open 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. But you would like remote access. So a guy comes along and tells you, okay, for remote access you need a terminal server, which is going to cost X thousands of pounds. But if I had the cloud, I can just access it whenever I like, because it's the internet. Anyone can access it from home, because everyone's got the internet. Scalability isn't a problem anymore either. So again, with taking on new members of staff and growing your business, there's an inherent cost of PCs, desk space, and setting those users up. We don't need to do that anymore. What we need to do is just phone up your cloud provider and say, I'd like another 3 users, please, and they just turn it on. It's available instantly. You don't even have to wait for the stuff to be delivered. And best of all, the word everyone loves is it's cheap. Why spend £5, £6, £7, £8,000 on a server when you can have one for £60 a month? Why bother?
Anybody corrupted it yet?
Sorry?
Anybody corrupted the cloud yet?
Not yet.
When's that going to come?
It's early days. Early days, yeah. I'd imagine it will happen.
But to kind of answer that question though, it's when you say has anyone corrupted the cloud, the big boys out there haven't actually said they've had issues around what you're saying, but they had outages. Like Microsoft had an outage on Sunday for 7 hours.
7 hours, yeah.
Where the services weren't available. It's like
clouds. So what we'll do is just go through the beginning really of the modern day company network as we see it at the moment. Then we'll go sort of from that point to sort of today, what the industry's how it's evolved and what we're experiencing at the moment, and then we'll go through the cloud itself. Really, I suppose the answer to all of our problems, or so what a lot of people tell you. So then we'll go through what the issues with cloud computing. So we'll sort of really go from point and counterpoint there. What we're doing about it and how we're using it to help our customers. And then again the future of the cloud and how we see that evolving and how we see that coming to light over the next few years. And then after, any questions? So in the beginning, I think we're all familiar with these points. The modern day network is about, funny enough, the personal computer and email now, they're about 40 years old nearly. 1973 was the first email. Personal computer was really a year or so after that. So we're all kind of familiar. The personal computer was really the natural progression of the typewriter made staff and end users more efficient, quicker. Email, a great way of sending a lot of information over a vast distance extremely quickly. Servers, again, the kind of natural progression on from a mainframe, say a central repository unit for personal computers to access central information. Again, kind of makes that whole process a lot more efficient. And then the internet, something that was designed as a mass virtual library for everyone just to access information. As I say, it's probably something everyone's kind of familiar with, everyone's used. It's a bit hard to find someone who hasn't used any of those things now. Okay, so today, well, where has that sort of brought us over the last 30-odd years? Well, now there are 750 million business email inboxes, or more than that, because that's stats from 2010. Those inboxes, or email generally, is 294 billion emails sent a day, of which 90% are spam and viruses. Quite a huge amount. Now we'll come into that. We'll come onto that a little bit later on. How important that figure is, but still, that works out to about 30 billion legitimate emails sent per day, and I would imagine that most of those are sent by those 750 million business inboxes. So again, in March 2001, there were 458 million internet users. That's approximately 11 years after the internet was invented by Tim Berners-Lee in 1990. Now there are more than 2,110 million internet users. So we've seen the amount of the reach that this technology has gained is massive. Everyone's using it. We've also seen data become to grow massively over the last 30 odd years, and it's currently estimated that enterprise data will grow by 60% per year, and that's dependent on what industry you're in. If we take the graphics industry, for example, that's more than double. That's about 120% or more per year that their data will grow. Now, to combat that, we've seen larger PCs being shipped with terabyte drives, notebooks with larger drives, and indeed servers. But the point is that data will always ever grow. And by utilising email and internet to create and manage more data, it's just going to get more and more as people become more versed in how to use it. We've also seen connection speeds increase from 10 megabits to 1 gigabit per second. Now, 10 megabits was created with Ethernet back roughly when the PC was. 1 gigabit is 1,000 megabits. So it's quite a quick transition of speed. Now, the reason for the increase in speed is really the reason for things like the PC and email is to do with efficiency and speed from access. So when I want to go and access a file from a server, I want it instantly. I don't want to have to hang around and wait for it to open. So if I can do more things, I can get a lot more done quickly. So we've seen connection speeds increase massively. Now if we take, this is just really, I suppose, for most small to medium-sized business speeds. If we used to look at places like the Docklands in the city, they've got fibre to desktop, and that's the speed of light. So it'd be fair to say that businesses have become more reliant on the IT infrastructure for productivity and efficiency. And Warren mentioned about disaster recovery has now become a hot topic. I think years ago, when most people used sort of pen and paper and the files, it wasn't really a big issue. It just kind of happened. And there wasn't this question of, well, what if my building burns down? It's kind of, well, the files go with it, I'll pack up and go home, I guess. Whereas now, that doesn't happen. People say, well, what if my server blows up? What if the building does flood or burn? So I need access to my data still needs to be able to function. Well, we can do that. There are ways of replicating your network off-site to another location. So if the worst was to happen, you can quite quickly switch over to that new site and use it. And whether that be you working from home or you work at a sort of disaster recovery site you set up yourself. However, that can be a very expensive solution, and depending on the amount of downtime you're willing to suffer, and for most companies that's very minimal, you're looking at tens of thousands of pounds. You know, I've got a company with only about 50, 60 users, and they spend approximately £60,000 on a solution where they'll be up and running within about an hour, and then they pay an ongoing cost of about £1,000 a month. It's extremely expensive for most small to medium businesses. That's just not an option. But then when you say to them, well, you've got your backup tape, so that's kind of disaster recovery. It's going to take between a week to 2 weeks to get you back up and running. Yeah. No, backup tapes aren't new technology. In fact, they're probably one of the oldest technologies we're still using. The good thing about tape is it can hold quite a vast amount of data.
Are we talking tape as in tape discs?
As in, yeah, cassette tapes.
Oh, jeez, they used to use that?
The old magnetic tape, yeah, and we're still using that to back up data, which is outdated. We have seen the introduction of an RDX technology, which is essentially a small hard drive encased in a rugged case, and that will take up to, I think, about 700 gigs worth of data now, whereas a tape backup will still go into terabytes of data. So it's still really the leader in backup technology. However, we are starting to see that even that's becoming, it's not sufficient for a lot of businesses. Again, going to things like the graphic industry, where they're, if we say I went to see one the other month, and they were holding about 8 terabytes of data. So you're saying their data growth is going to increase by 120%. I mean, we're looking at probably another terabyte per year. A terabyte is 1,000 gig. So you've got at the sort of basic level, you've got 1 byte, then 1 kilobyte, which is about 8 words, and then you've got a megabyte, which is 1,000 kilobytes. You've got a gigabyte, which is 1,000 megabytes, and then it goes on. So it's an awful lot of data. So like I say, now we're starting to see backup technology even struggling with the amount of data that the companies are creating, and that's not even the enterprise marketplace, that is in the small to medium sized business. So ultimately, all this IT evolution, as fantastic as it is, has brought along with it some of its inherent problems which need a solution. And that's where the cloud comes into it, cloud computing. Don't panic, put it all in the cloud. And that's what all these big companies like Microsoft and Amazon, they're all going to be telling you. Don't worry about it, we've got a solution, you just put it in the cloud, the internet basically. The internet's massive, there's so much room there for everyone. And you can just pick up all of your data, all of your applications, and put it in the cloud. Don't worry about disaster recovery, we don't have to spend tens of thousands of pounds on a disaster recovery plan, because it's all in the internet, and that's always on. So, exactly what I said, it's an always on, always available service. You can access it any time of day or night. It's the internet's always on. So for some companies that's a real great plus, because generally you've just got your own server and your workstations and that's it. You don't have remote access, and your company's only open 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. But you would like remote access. So a guy comes along and tells you, okay, for remote access you need a terminal server, which is going to cost X thousands of pounds. But if I had the cloud, I can just access it whenever I like, because it's the internet. Anyone can access it from home, because everyone's got the internet. Scalability isn't a problem anymore either. So again, with taking on new members of staff and growing your business, there's an inherent cost of PCs, desk space, and setting those users up. We don't need to do that anymore. All we need to do is just phone up your cloud provider and say, I'd like another 3 users, please, and they just turn it on. It's available instantly. You don't even have to wait for the stuff to be delivered. And best of all, the word everyone loves is it's cheap. Why spend 5, 6, 7, 8,000 pounds on a server when you can have one for £60 a month? My
Anybody corrupted it yet?
Sorry?
Anybody corrupted the cloud yet?
Not yet.
When's that going to come?
It's early days. Early days, yeah. I'd imagine it will happen.
But to kind of answer that question though, it's when you say has anyone corrupted the cloud, the big boys out there haven't actually said they've had issues around what you're saying, but they had outages. Like Microsoft had an outage on Sunday for 7 hours.
7 hours, yeah.
Where the services weren't available. And it was like,
Do you know what's going on?
what's going on? So are they actually being upfront with you?
The cloud is basically a physical installation.
Yeah, so if you imagine
It's as vulnerable as anything else.
you've got the cloud, yeah? Or, as we know, really, the internet. Now what that's backed up by, or what that really is, are loads of data centres with loads and loads of racks of servers in them. That's essentially the internet, and that essentially is where all of your data goes. It goes to a data centre. Now what people like Microsoft and Amazon do, they will then have multiple data centres around the world, and they will replicate that information off to the other data centres. So in theory, you can't use that always on always service. So if that data centre goes down, it's okay because we can transfer you over to another one. Doesn't know what happened on Sunday when it went down. So there's those sort of questions around it at the moment.
So in theory, Tesco could have been whacked out for 7 hours.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah. So, as I said, the model they've worked on is all very modular. You can add people as when you need. The cost is very low, and for the most part, it seems like an ideal solution, especially for new startup businesses. You've got very little capital cost. It's just a case of a monthly payment. So that all sounds great, but what are the issues? Speed or bandwidth. I'm sure everyone here's got an internet connection, but I'm sure everyone here would have a different experience with that internet connection to another. I mean, myself, for example, I get barely a meg's worth of bandwidth, download speed, but here we get 7 or 8 meg on our ADSL line, which is fantastic. But I could have the same service running here via the internet and it would work great. Now if I go home and use it, it's going to be awful because my bandwidth isn't big enough to take it. Now also, when we go back about the speed that I was saying from the server to the desktop, where that's evolved from 10 meg all the way up to 1 gig. Well, that's because you've got physical cabling going from your server all the way to your desktop. Because you're going to be going out onto the internet, you're going to have to use your internet connection, your ADSL connection, your phone line basically. Now the best speeds really on ADSL that we can see are approximately 20 meg, and that's if you're in a really good connection area, really close to the exchange. On average, most people get around 5 or 6 meg. So we've gone from 1 gig to 6 meg. So it's quite a big drop. So what we'll probably see is that people will adopt this cloud service because Microsoft and Amazon and all the other big players, they're not selling you broadband services, they're selling you the cloud services. That's got nothing to do with your internet line that you pay Sky or BT for, it's your cloud. So then when you go to access and you go, it's not that great, it's quite slow. Sorry, your internet provider. Now there are ways around that. We can put bigger pipes in. We can put fibre lines in and better technology to make that work quicker, but then it's a question of cost. So, okay, your home ADSL may only be, I don't know, £15 or £20 a month. In some cases, it's free with whatever package you've got. For most businesses, they will probably spend £40 to £60 on a decent ADSL service, but still only achieve approximately 6-7 meg. When we start talking about 10 meg for a decent lease line connection, we're talking several £100, sometimes £500–700 a month, and a large setup fee of several £1,000s also.
Unless you go with Virgin.
Well, unless you go with Virgin for what they would call their sort of home fibre optic broadband. Now, there are again questions over that. It's not really a business service, they predominantly sell that out to consumers. That has effects on their network in respect of the amount of information that their home users transfer. It is often larger than what businesses do, and that affects the business traffic. It also has, also what they will do is, if anyone heard of contention and how that affects lines. So what an ISP will do, an internet service provider will do, buy a line, fibre optic line for example, and they will have say 10 meg of bandwidth, to put that down, and they will then spur that off per house, per business. Now, if no one else in that area is on that line at that same time, the likelihood is you'll get 100% that 10 meg. But then when people start logging on from the other areas, that will then have an impact on your service. And what you find is people like Virgin and like BT as well, they sell this stuff to the masses and they highly content their product. I mean, with BT, for example, it's normally about 50 to 1, so there's 50 other people using the same line that you've got.
Is it right to say that, just following on that thinking, it's a physical limitation, isn't it? Virgin phoned me up. I've got, I think it's 20 gig. 20 gig capacity, and they keep trying to sell me, pay more money and you get a faster connection. But in reality, the connection ain't going to change. The speed of upload and download is not going to change.
It can do, yeah, it can do. They can actually throttle that down. So you could, it depends on the type of technology they've got installed. But they could say, we could put like 100 meg link in down one street. Yeah, and then they can say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to give every house 10 meg to use. But they could quite easily say, well, actually, number 24 is willing to pay an extra £50 a month. We'll give them an extra 5 meg. And they could do that. It is possible to do it.
It makes a difference. I mean, I've got an actual downloading of just under 10. So I'm trying on the MTO, just under 10, which it's instant.
Yeah, I mean, what they're probably trying to sell you is additional download allowance. So what a lot of ISPs will do is say, here's your broadband line, you've got an 8 meg line, but you're capped to using 10 megs worth of, 10 gig of data. So that means if you're downloading music, that's volume. So that's
I don't have a cap on my account.
Okay, so yeah, we're just trying to sell you more bandwidth then, which is possible. It is possible.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean there is a limit to how much the line will take.
That's what I always understood.
Yeah, there is, and it can be. I mean, you just have to be careful really with what you So yeah, I mean, apart from the speed and bandwidth issues, which would really impact on the end user's experience, and there's nothing worse than, I suppose, as a company, you make a change for something that you think is going to be a lot better for your company, and suddenly all the users go, this is terrible, I'm not paying, it's awful, I can't work like this, then you've just got everyone against you. So apart from that, you've got the biggest question around the whole solution, which is security, which was brought up earlier on. These data centres aren't really housed in the UK. Well, it's cost, basically. They're normally housed in Eastern European countries. They've been built, there's a lot of them in Ireland now, the US, China.
It's expensive.
Yeah, I know, but that's where the outage was the other day, in Ireland. And, it's crazy. So
sounds the IRA back there.
Yeah. So these data centres all across the world, basically, and you won't really know where your data is being held. So what we don't really know are what are the laws in those countries. We know what the laws are in this country, and that's quite an easy thing to provide to people. We don't know what they are in Eastern Bloc countries and the States, and who's got access to your data. Can a US federal officer just walk into a data centre and say, I'd like to see that data, please? There's probably nothing to stop them to do that. Funny enough, we did have that question from one of our customers recently. And so I said, where are your data centres? And the data centres we currently use are in Docklands and Reading. And we said, well, that's great, I don't want my data to be held in the UK. And why is that? I want it to go to Luxembourg. Because in Luxembourg, no one can access your data, even the government. They can't walk into a data centre and say, I want to see that customer's data.
Those days are limited though, aren't they?
Yes. So, it's great for people who know what they're doing, but for things, for general businesses, it's a big question mark. We've got a single point of failure again, which Warren mentioned. Now, one single point of failure is the data centre. So if that goes down or that link goes down, well, you've lost your business basically. I mean, at the moment, if your ADSL line goes down, and you've still got your PCs and your server, you can still get on with, let's say, 25% of your business. Your accounts can still run. They can probably still run invoices, and do that kind of function. Sales guys can still run, so they've still got phones and maybe a database to work from. In most cases, it's not the end of the world. You can still continue.
What you said on that top one, you've got little arrows going in both directions. What you said one will be transferred.
In theory it is. But if your line was to go down as well, or if that's working, but that one goes down, you're in the same boat. You've lost everything. You can't get to the internet. If that one goes down and that's not replicated as we're told it is, and as Microsoft had that 7-hour outage the other day where people couldn't access any of their data, but we're told it's replicated elsewhere. You know, that's one of the big questions around it. You've got too many. There's like single points of failure. If that one thing goes down, you've lost everything. Now, again, there are probably ways around that. Again, we can put 2 lines in at your site, so if one ADSL line goes down, it will just fail over to the other. It doesn't stop that one going down. Again, there's redundant features built into these data centres, but believe it, there's different tiers of data centre which cost more. We've also got shared versus dedicated.
When we were having terrorist attacks, they were also going for the BT exchanges that hit the businesses in a certain area. Like if the Hornchurch exchange goes up, literally all businesses in this whole Hornchurch area will not have internet access.
But it doesn't necessarily stop you working, does it? You still use your own system.
If you was using the cloud, yes, it would stop you from working.
Yeah. Well, we use the cloud and we do backup as well, so we have to try the backup.
Yeah, it depends. It depends how you've structured it. Yeah, that's right.
Structure that way.
Yeah, I mean, what basically people like Microsoft are promoting us to do is literally pick your office infrastructure up, put it on the internet, and you don't have to worry about it. You've got shared versus dedicated. Now, with these services, the reason why it's so cheap is because they can host many different companies' servers on one unit or one physical server. And that means that really you're sharing the same services as maybe 5, 10, 15 other companies. So it's not a dedicated service to you. And again, there's kind of questions around, because it's very early stages, how's that going to affect your experience? But also, how does it affect things like your data? What happens if company A gets a virus through their misuse, and that then takes down the entire server? You can have a dedicated service, so you can have your own server and your own rack in the cloud. Guess what? It costs more. So when you take into account those points, is it really that cheap? Which is really what they're pushing this service on. Is it? It's a cheap service, it goes in the cloud, don't have to worry about it, sets amount of money. You have to weigh up those options because it could really cost you a great deal of money and lost time, productivity, and risk. So what we're doing about it, hybrid systems, what we're looking at is using the best parts of the cloud that we know work, they're kind of proven. We're looking at what you currently got in your office and how we can make that work together, a bit like what you were saying about having both options. We're currently using a managed email filtering system. So what we've got is if I send you an email, it will hit our cloud email service first, and it will look at that email and say, is it spam? Has it got a virus? Is there anything to be concerned about? If all those questions are answered sufficiently, it will then send that email down to your server. So that's all happening within the internet. Normally that process happens at your server end and not the internet. But we've managed to make that work. Essentially, what you get is a clean feed down of email.
How do you separate out spam?
It's done through various different ways. You've got blacklists, global blacklists, so you can turn around and say you can configure it specifically to you.
You're barring email address, you're putting preferences, but how do you actually physically say that this is spam? If someone's sending out an ordinary email, which is actually spam, you and I know it's spam, they're sticking it up there. How do you filter that out?
Normally what happens is that they're coming from sources that are well known. So that goes like a global blacklist, so you can pick that domain name out. It also looks at the...
That's positive discrimination, positive.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about negative. In other words, something that is spam, but you don't know the name. It's a new address, comes up. Can you filter it on?
Yeah. What it does is it looks at the content of that email. So it will look at things like the words and content in it. Is it trying to get details off of you? Is it trying to sell you something that is obscene, that kind of thing? It will take all of that information. There's certain words, keywords, the way they're laid out.
Without trying to get too technical, what it also does is an email coming in, it does what's known as a reverse lookup. So if it says an email, what it's trying to do to get through as not being spam, it makes out it comes from someone else, so a different alias. So it looks that back up, and it doesn't exist. It says it's not spam, but it does lots of very clever things like that. But there's kind of honeypots that's kind of around the world, the big kind of antivirus and companies are using, and that's just collating the information. So it keeps referring back to these honeypots around the world to give you literally up to the seconds instantaneous spam prevention. But no system can be 100% spam proof. It's an impossibility. Anyone who claims that, you can say that's not true. Yeah, that's right. And they're getting clever. They're finding ways around the system. But then there's smart people out there that are finding ways that they're doing it and blocking it.
So as well as the email service, we've also got a managed firewall service. So this is a physical box that's on your site to stop things like hacking, and we can also do things like web monitoring as well, and web blocking. But we can manage that completely remotely from the cloud and push updates down to it and update policies. If you say, I no longer want Bob to look at these websites, but I want John to be able to do so, we can do all of that remotely for you using the cloud services. Disaster recovery, mentioned it earlier on. I've got a customer who's got all of their network completely replicated off-site, let's say at a premium, and we are currently looking at ways to make that more affordable and a mass market service. But they are available. We can do it, and as long as we have a conversation about this is how much it really costs, this is what you should really be expecting, and we have done it. And then hosted services. Warren mentioned earlier on about our acquisition of the company in Bromley. They were providing hosted services such as Microsoft Exchange, which runs your email, and a lot of companies tend to put that up in the cloud because they'll have various remote offices which they want managed centrally from that Microsoft Exchange, as well as various other applications, Sage Accounts for example. You can use that as a hosted product now too. So where's the future of cloud? Right now, my feeling is it's in home entertainment. Apple, iPads, iPods, iPhones. What Apple are going to be doing is all of the things that run those products called iTunes, that is essentially going to be completely cloud-based. So you can have your library of music and videos and TV and all of that on the internet. And wherever you go, as long as you've got an internet connection, you can get it on your iPhone or your iPad or your iPod if it's got a Wi-Fi connection. Microsoft are doing the same. Xbox, for example, that's got an online library of videos and music and all of that. So when you go around to people's houses, you can log into your own account and say, look at my new playlist I've got, do you want to see this movie, that kind of thing. That is, for me, where cloud is going to be going right now. It's going to be hitting the mass market, the people who are going to be using it the most, and then they're going to be coming to us and saying we want these services. Corporates and government, these guys always get the cool stuff first because they get it cheap. The corporates, Microsoft just throws stuff at those guys, so I want them to use it so when their employees come visit us, it's fantastic and they want to sell it to us. Government, as I say, they get it cheap. It's not going to cost them that much money for these leases.
All the income tax.
The Met Police, for example, are looking at cloud services quite seriously. And that's probably the way these things are going to be going for the near future. So that's in our eyes what's going to be happening.
But this cloud, does this effectively mean that for a company, it reduces their investment in hardware?
Yes, yeah. Well, yes, if you take that shared service.
That's what I meant. So you can effectively counter the cost by reducing the cost of hardware.
Yeah, but I mean, has anyone heard of VoIP or voice over IP? Skype? Yeah? Okay, Skype is basically telephone calls over the internet. And that's what VoIP is. And that's what pops up really when I started with Utilize about 6 years ago is VoIP. It's going to be the next best thing. Everyone's going to be doing it. BT are going to go out of business because you don't need to make phone calls anymore. You just put it over the internet.
You still pay internet connection.
Exactly. It's not really happened. Most people, if you've used Skype, you'll find that the service is great if you're using it to call relatives or friends abroad, but invariably it's a little bit jerky, it drops out sometimes. And for business, that really isn't an option. Now, we can make that work for businesses, but it's only really just now that we're getting to a point where it's affordable. Again, take this back 3 or 4 years ago, we'd be saying, well, if you want a voice over IP solution, which in theory gives you free calls, it will cost you approximately £20,000 a year. It's now not really an option. Now, VoIP, again, like I say, is still quite an expensive solution to go for if you want it done right. And I think with the cloud, I think it will happen. The cloud will happen, and everyone will be using it at some point. But if they're not careful with the way they play it, it could quite easily just be another industry buzzword. And that's pretty much where we are.
I can remember when all this started, we were told companies that paperless society. That hasn't happened yet. Is it likely to?
I mean, some of the stuff Warren will show you today around the office, we've made, I suppose, the biggest jump towards that paperless office. Will you really get rid of it? I don't think so. Because things like marketing documents, you're still going to want proposals, you still want in your hand contracts, you know. You're never really going to get rid of it. I mean, I still use, I still use my notepad for making my daily list of notes, and I've got all that function on the PC. I can type away in Word if I want to, and have a nice little spreadsheet of what I'm doing each day. I'm not going to do it.
Like the new generation of kids who only use that sort of thing in school, and will that help them to help us to help this as well?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, we've dealt
I
with.
think Apple will have a big really do, because the iPads, I've got iPads for kids, they use it all the time, and it's so easy to kind of record notes on there. But what you've got here is you've got the battle now with Microsoft versus Apple. They've both got the same market, but which way are people going to go? Businesses will go the Microsoft route because it's down to compatibility. Yeah? Whereas Apple have almost kind of sewn up the home market. Yeah, but that's a great key for the future, because all kids are using Apple. When they join businesses, what will they be asking? It's only a matter of time. Which I think would be great, because Microsoft do need a bit of a kick up in that.
What they used to.
Going back to what Ron said.